There are rumors that he was attending a mosque when he was in custody, awaiting to be sentenced. But what I would say in response to all of this is let's take it back one step further and ask the question, even if all of this stuff is true, none of that would be an issue if he wasn't in our country in the first place. Because this is the point. The Rudakubana family being in Britain is is an outcome of government policy. The Rudakubana family claimed asylum here in 2002, which, by the way, was 8 years after the genocide in Rwanda. So it's not because of that. It's actually unclear at this stage why they were granted asylum. So there's questions to be asked there. But if they hadn't been, if our government didn't have this pathological addiction to, so-called empathy to people from the most violent, imaginable regions of the world, then they wouldn't have been here, and this wouldn't have happened.
The people who are prepared to be honest with you about the Southport massacre have said to hell with political correctness or a corrupted political and judicial process designed to cover up the reality from you. And we have stated a simple truth. That simple truth being that Axel Rudakubana is a terrorist who converted to extreme Islam, had a copy of the Al-Qaeda training manual, was producing ricin in his revolting bedroom, and has been practicing the Muslim faith behind bars in Belmarsh. Quite a catalogue, right? But the MSM don't want to admit that simple truth. And what I've seen over the past week is actually sickening. Anything other than admitting the truth that is hiding in plain sight, let's blame, I don't know, Elon Musk instead, or Amazon and Jeff Bezos, or even Donald Trump. But even many MSM commentators, normally of sound mind, are really grasping at straws, like Peter Hitchens this weekend on the Mail on Sunday, who actually said, these are his words, Rudakubana is not a terrorist any more than Paddington Bear is a terrorist. The idea is idiotic. He is plainly crazy, as are many of those who kill on our streets. What the hell? Well, it turns out Hitchens, despite criticising sane people like me who know exactly what radicalised Rudakubana, he is actually attempting to politicise the most sickening of crimes himself by inventing a theory that Rudakubana was radicalised by marijuana. Now, I'm no fan of the weed. I'm totally opposed to the wacky-backy, actually. I agree with Hitchens. It is a damaging gateway drug, and I have seen it destroy many lives. But he has zero evidence that this is the case here. Yet he writes, Rudakubana became crazy around the age of 12 or 13 between being filmed dressed as Doctor Who, cheerful and normal, and becoming the blank-eyed, masked, mumbling grotesque, which he now is. Rudakubana began to display anger issues and started to turn violent around the age of 13. That is usually the point that the children of Britain first encounter marijuana. Within a couple of years, many of them are irreparably damaged and some are crazily violent. Now, again, that is simply not the case here. Rudakubana was radicalised by something altogether different. But we've had a week of this, a week of being gaslit by the dying MSM, like LBC.
There's no evidence to suggest that this man was a radical Islamist, for example. He looked at Al-Qaeda stuff, yes, true, but that's not quite the same as saying that he believed in a radical Islamist worldview, which...
Or the British Bashing Corporation doubling down last night on the fact that social media is to blame. Watch.
Ministers say social media companies have a moral duty to take down harmful and illegal violent content in the wake of the Southport attacks last summer. Axel Rudakubana had watched a huge amount of violent content online before he murdered 3 young girls. The Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch said what he'd been watching was evidence that he hadn't integrated into British society.
And of course, Rachel from Accounts, now joining the call for censorship.
It's totally unacceptable, the fact that the killer, before he went on to commit those horrific crimes, was able to access really easily on some of the online platforms such hateful material. And those companies have got a moral responsibility to take that content down.
And when someone in the MSM accidentally delivers a truth bomb, this is how they react.
doubt in my mind, had people done their job better in the last few years in relation to this man, those girls would still be alive.
So what's behind this mad approach? Well, Alex Phillips actually had a very reasonable theory that I wanted to share with you. She posted on X, middle classes on Southport and rape gangs. My reality is different from their reality. I am above them. Therefore, my reality is the reality. And I will not say or do anything to jeopardize the comfort I enjoy. Alex is super smart on this, actually. It's why none of the middle classes seem to give a damn about young migrant men loitering around outside a primary school filming little kids. As Alex puts it, yet again, the safety of little girls matters less than offending men with absolutely no claim to be in our nation. And we, the people, are fed up. Listen to this desperate call from a mother to a migrant hotel.
Hotel in Deansanger. Yeah, are you guys aware that the asylum seekers that you guys have got in the hotel are down by the school taking photographs?
Are they doing it right now?
They're not right now, but they were about 9 o'clock this morning.
9 o'clock this morning. It's under my understanding that the police have been contacted. We're aware currently. Would you like to call the welfare team that work here?
No, that's okay.
That stuff, I don't actually deal with it.
Is there just like any other people in your hotel, or is it just the asylum seekers, just in case we're getting confused?
Just asylum seekers.
Okay. Oh, all right then. Well, we've reported it to the police, and we'll just keep doing what we can. But I just think you guys should be aware. I drove around this morning after seeing them, and you know, I saw the same guys entering the hotel that are outside the school.
Right. Okay. Do you have any kind of description, just so I can tell the welfare team?
Yeah, one of them was in an army jacket this morning.
Army jacket.
Yeah, they were in an army jacket. Obviously, they've all got beards, and there's like different ones every day. But yeah. So we kind of my sister. I was late this morning on the school run, but my sister saw them at school drop-off time. When I was late, I turned up and saw them again, and I beat the horn, and they ran off with their hoods up and stuff. So I just wanted to make you guys aware.
Yeah, no, I mean, our phone's been going crazy all morning. I've been getting a lot of phone calls.
Oh, bless you.
I'm aware of what's going on. All I can say is I've got phone numbers for the correct welfare teams, and we do have security here. So all the people who are worried about this can contact them. Obviously, I'm just on reception, so I can't actually do anything. But yeah, we've not actually had a visit from the police yet.
When I drove by this morning, it seemed like it was all just men in the hotel. Is there actually any women and children, or is it just men?
No, there isn't any women and children.
Oh, okay. Seems strange, isn't it? Because they're all seeking asylum, but they're not with their wives and children and stuff.
No. I know 100%. I think it's the same over the country, but yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for helping. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. No worries. It's all right.
Cheers.
Doesn't that phone
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Doesn't that phone call just sum up the hopelessness of the situation that we all feel? And it gets worse. Our descent gets worse with the case of Ibo Jasser from Gambia, who came to Britain in 2004 on a 6-month visa, was accused of sexual assault in 2010, raped a vomiting woman in 2015 and got 6 years in prison, but has taken the Home Office to court 6 times using taxpayers' money, claiming asylum. On leaving prison, he was held in a deportation centre to be sent back while he continued to use legal aid to claim he shouldn't be returned, and has now received substantial compensation for oppressive treatment by the UK government. As Alex Phillips puts it once again, the foreign rapist becomes the victim. Our descent into insanity isn't a future prospect. It's happened. And we've got to do something about it. Now, my superstar panel. But first, I know the reason you're watching this show is because you know that these days it's almost impossible to trust the mainstream media or the so-called fact checkers who claim to patrol social media. And there's a very good reason for that, right? Think about it. Brexit, COVID, Donald Trump, they got it all wrong. So I've got the solution. Today's sponsor, Ground News, is the only safe way to consume the headlines. And you can go to ground.news/outspoken to check it out for yourself. But what I want to actually do is show you this website and app in action. So let's look at the recent story about Elon Musk falling out with Nigel Farage. It was over Tommy Robinson, of course. And the legacy media wanted to whip up this story to destroy all three men. But you can see here on Ground News that they have collated the 230 sources in one place. Then it instantly shows how the story is being covered by the media, but broken down by whether the media organizations lean to the left or the right. This is the illustration bias distribution service. And if you scroll down, you can see every article about the topic broken down by political position or ownership. So in this case, Fox News gave a fair analysis, whereas the Independent and Mediaite did not. They actually lambasted Musk and Robinson and Farage as morons with big egos, but they didn't actually look into why the split happened, how it could be resolved. What's more, Ground News actually gets to know you personally. This is really important. It will provide you with news stories that you are interested in, but it also analyzes your own biases and comes up with potential blind spots for stories that you might not be hearing about. So if you're like me, you love the news, but you no longer trust the legacy media, Ground News gives you the tools to understand the truth about what is going on in the world. I can vouch for this service. It's the only way I now read the news. It allows me to see through media bias and manipulative narratives without having to rely on the MSM to define the truth for me. So you can go to ground.news/outspoken, check it out for yourself. And if you subscribe through my link, you get 40% off. That's 40% off the Vantage plan, which is what I use for unlimited access. Now, I should say, Ground News, completely subscriber funded. If you support my sponsor, you support my work too. And for less than a Netflix subscription, you get all of the world's news in one place. And you can think for yourself. It really is a game changer for a news junkie like me. So I'll just repeat the address, ground.news/outspoken, or you can click on the link in the description box below if you're watching on YouTube or Rumble. There's also the QR code up on screen right now as well. But now, back to the show. And I'm delighted to welcome back Peter McElvenna from the Hearts of Oak podcast and the conservative commentator Charlie Downs. So, Charlie, look, loads to pick up there, but can we start with Peter Hitchens, who is attacking people like me, who say this is very obvious, people like Douglas Murray, who say Axel Rudakubana is 100% a terrorist, an Islamist, but he is trying to say that actually this is all down to marijuana.
I was just saying that it's very interesting how since the sentencing of Axel Rudakubana, it's acted as a kind of political Rorschach test. So, as you said, we've seen the government come down on social media. They've said that there needs to be greater, more stringent checks on people seeking to buy what amounts to cutlery and kitchen utensils from the internet, which inevitably paves the way for digital ID, by the way. We've seen Reform, and indeed yourself, Dan, come out and say that this was clearly terrorism. And we've seen Peter Hitchens come out and say that this was because of marijuana. Now, I think that pinning this case to any one thing is fundamentally too simplistic, because it's possible, actually, that it's a combination of all these things. It is quite possible that Rudakubana was radicalized by spending a lot of time on social media. It is possible that he was on marijuana and that had an impact on his kind of mental state. It is possible that he was radicalized to radical Islam. I mean, there are rumors that he was attending a mosque when he was in custody, awaiting to be sentenced. But what I would say in response to all of this is let's take it back one step further and ask the question, even if all of this stuff is true, none of that would be an issue if he wasn't in our country in the first place. Because this is the point. The Rudakubana family being in Britain is is an outcome of government policy. The Rudakubana family claimed asylum here in 2002, which, by the way, was 8 years after the genocide in Rwanda. So it's not because of that. It's actually unclear at this stage why they were granted asylum. So there's questions to be asked there. But if they hadn't been, if our government didn't have this pathological addiction to, so-called empathy to people from the most violent imaginable regions of the world, then they wouldn't have been here and this wouldn't have happened. So I think that that's really the level at which the conversation needs to be happening. We need to be asking the questions of why we're allowing these people here in the first place. Because if they weren't here, we wouldn't be having conversations about whether it's because of marijuana or social media or the fact that he could buy a knife off Amazon or Islam or anything else.
Suicidal empathy, as Gad Saad quite rightly describes it. And actually, I want to dig deep into Axel Rudakubana's father in particular very shortly. But Peter, before we do that, can I just get your reaction to the MSM seemingly looking for every other solution to this problem other than the one which is obvious and which there is evidence for?
It was on Amazon that the Southport killer bought his knife. Amazon, of course, is owned by Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos was sitting in the row behind Donald Trump at the latter's inauguration. The man who owns the platform that still hosts and holds the footage that the Southport killer looked before he set off to that Taylor Swift dance class, he was not just sitting in the row directly behind Donald Trump. He is the guy that got on stage and did the Nazi salutes. So I am not given to hyperbole, but the aligning of these planets is at the very least notable. But what the hell can a British government do to rein them in? Because that is the fight that they've picked.
Peter, your reaction?
I'm shocked that LBC don't know what they can do to rein these people in. That does blow me away, that level of stupidity and level of ignorance. But they talked about Amazon, and I'm curious because we talk about Islam as a religion and Islamism as some political ideology. No one knows when exactly that came from, because we see right at the beginning of Islam, we see varying levels of violence and spread by the sword, and that is right in the root of Islam. So if we're going to talk about Amazon, I should talk about Amazonism as some offshoot of Amazon that's nothing to do with Amazon, but is a twisted form of the wonderful shopping experience that we have on Amazon. I kind of hate it the way we label some areas one way and refuse to label other areas another way. So we should have the same conversations across the board. If Amazon is the problem because that's a shopping channel, then maybe Islam is also an issue and we need to have Islam on the table. But of course, you can't have that conversation. And of course, the concerning issue that Rudakubana was going to court, and he had said that he was going to plead innocent. Suddenly he pleads guilty. What does that mean? It means we don't have a trial. It means the evidence, whatever the police aren't always very good at collecting evidence, and the CPS aren't always very good either, but whatever that was they were collecting that would have fitted together in terms of a legal defense or attack on Rudakubana, we're no longer going to see that, because that simple declaration of guilty means that's all brushed aside. And I think that if we are willing to pay the money to the grooming gang rapists to appeal their sentences, of which 2 million was given to the Rochdale 9, for instance, and you've referred to some of the money that goes to these individuals, Dan, then I think some of that money can be spent to actually have a trial, and let's find out what the reason was that this individual carried out this attack. Was it because he was a loner? Was it because he had had a spliff? Was it because he had attended his local mosque? What is it? But the problem is we will never know, because that has been shut down. And to me, that is the biggest travesty. The public will never know why this happened.
Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source, and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.